Okay, so now we're ready to do our in-betweening, and I just wanted to say that what I did to make this a clearer demonstration, I've darkened up all the colors. So you remember I used the tin color to do my previous demos. Well, I've really just gone over with the black pencil here on the left, and I've used the paint pot tool, and I just clicked on all the lines and turned them black because it makes it much darker for you guys to see. It makes it much clearer when I'm demonstrating. Also, I've juggled around a little bit again with my timings just to get a more fluid interaction between the drawings and the sound or the audio. And it's nothing different to what I showed you before. I just fine-tuned it. I find that walking away from something and coming back an hour or two, or even the next morning, coming back and looking at it again, you can see little tweaks you can make. And you can always do that. You can work forever fixing things. But there comes a point where you just have to move forward, and that's where we are now. So I'm just going to play you what I've got. It shouldn't look appreciably different to what you've seen already, but just so you know where we are. Okay, so that's our movement. And now what we've got to do is do our key positions. Now the first thing to do is, or not do the in between the key positions, that's what I meant to say. So if you look, I'm going to turn the soundtrack down because we don't want to hear that sneezing all the time. If you look, we're going in fits and starts from there to there to there to there to there, and we want to make it nice and fluid. We want in-betweens there now, so we have to work out how many in-betweens do we need to do and what's the best way of doing that. So what I'm suggesting is that if we look at this first sequence and we go along and notice that the last frame of the first drawing is frame 22 and the first one is 23, then what we can do is we can say, okay, so the second key drawing we're working with, and I'm going to use the pencil tool, is 23. We're on, see, frame here, up here, 23 of 92. I've kept the end as 92 frames, and if you scroll along here between there and there, you'll see this number changing up here. If I do it again, you'll see 22, 23. So we know that this drawing has to be on frame 23. So why don't we number it 23? Okay, and I'm going to do the same going all the way through to the next frame, and that one is 28. Now let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I actually want that to be 6 frames long because that divides easier for in between. So I'm just going to extend that up. All right, so there we go. The next frame now is frame 29. So that's key 29. I always want an odd number there. So this one is 35. So I'm going to put it down there, 35. As long as you've got a number somewhere, it doesn't really matter where you put that number. And then the next one is at frame 41. And then the next frame is going to be at 57. And the final frame, the end position, is going to be 65. All right, so what we know now is where our frame, our drawing, our key drawings have to be in terms of the timeline. The next thing we want to do is, okay, so how many in-betweens do we need to put between one and the other to make it happen? Because obviously that starts at 23, but we're not going to hold it. We're going to keep it in-betweening till we get to 29, and then in-betweening until we get to 35, and so on and so on. So we have to work out how many in-betweens to go from 1 to 23. Now, we're not going to in-between all those frames. It's really just the beginning's going to be static, and then suddenly it's just going to start around here. It's going to start in-betweening until 23. So we're looking at the last number of frames of getting into 23. And looking at the movement, we're going from static to there, and then going pretty fluid through. So what I'm going to suggest is we have 4 in-betweens. So I'm going to do an in-between chart. Let's do it out of the line of vision there. So we're going to go on drawing 1, we're going to go to 23. And I would suggest let's just do some even in-betweens, but have a little slow out at the beginning. A slow out, remember, is just a fine, an extra in-between there. So we're going 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 to 23. Okay? It doesn't matter that it's not, 21, 19, 17, 15. It doesn't matter. You can number it that way if you wanted to. Like 15, 17, 19, 21, 23. You could do that as well. It doesn't matter. It's really working out how many in-betweens. So this will give us a very, very slight, slow start and then build up into a pretty faster moving sequence. And then we're going to go from 23 to there. And we've got, let's see, 1, 2 in-betweens to do it. So what I would suggest is we slow in a little bit into 23, and again you're just going to have to judge this on your own character, but I feel that he's reaching a down point there and then he goes up, so that's an ending point. So I like slowing into an ending point. So we're going to go from 23 to 29. So what I would do is make 25 our breakdown position, and 27 easing us into 29. And then from 29 we're going up to 35, and we've got, let's see, 1, 2, again 2 in-betweens. That's all we've got. So we're going to go from 29 to 35. That gives us 31 and 33. Well, what I would recommend is that we actually slow out, because we slowed into 29. Why don't we slow out of 29? So we put 31 there. 33 would be our breakdown, and 35 would be our next key. Now we may find that's not perfect, but let's work with it for now. And then that's going to go fast up to there and fast forward to there, and again we're going to have 1, 2 in-betweens there from 35 through to 41. So what I'm going to do is do 35 to 41, and I'm going to slow into 41 because we've done a big move up and forward, and then we want to ease into it. So I'm just going to do 37 is our breakdown, 39 is our next in between, and then 41. And that takes us to there. And then really we've got a lot of in betweens because it's the ooh part, remember? And then it's going to take us through to 57. So we've got a lot of in betweens to play with there. And what I suggest again, that we want to emphasize that ooh part at the end. So I'm going to say, let's see, 41 through to 57. And I'm going to work it out. 43, 45, 47. I'm going to do a little slow in to 57, 49, 51, 53, 55. So we've got a lot of in-betweens there. It's really going to be slowed down, but that's the ooh part, and we want to hold on to that as much as possible. So we've got 43, 45, 47, 49, 51, 53, 55. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on there, and it's going to be nice and slow. But remember, a sneeze is that it's a really fast build up, express, and then slow it down and then return back to the normal position. Okay, so we've done a slight slow into 57, and then when we get from 57 through to 60, 57 to 69, we've got 1, 2, 3 in-betweens to go with. And I'm going to suggest we ease into that one. So I'm going to do 57 here. And I'm going to do a slow in to 59, 61, 63. And did we say 69? Hang on, why have we got that? So we've got 57 to 69. Yeah, okay, so 57, 59, 61, 63, 65. Oh, I'm going to put an in-between here. Okay, let me go back there. I'm going to erase this. That seems more numbers than we need. Something's confusing me there because we've only got a few frames and yet we've got a long, big jump in numbering there. So this is... Oh, I see. I misnumbered this. It's not 69. This is 65. That makes sense. Okay, so I've got to renumber this. So that was my original error, guys. I'm sorry. So that is actually 65. Now it makes sense because I was trying to think, I've only got a short distance there. How do I get into that? So now I can do what I was originally intending to do. I'm going to erase that in between. That was very confusing for a minute. Okay, so 57, 59, 61, 63, and then 65 is our last drawing, and that's going to be the hold. All right. So what we've done there is at least now we've blocked out our key positions. We've marked in our in-betweens. We know how many in-betweens we need to do to feed this system. And basically we're ready to go to do the in-betweening, and that's what we'll do now. So I hope this stage was clear. So if you see the whole process, we block out our keyframes, we put in our breakdown drawings and do a keyframe animatic. We then adjust everything, we rotate things, we make the body of it work better than our first animatic position. Then if necessary we redraw on a new layer and start working with new drawings, and then just double fine-tune the real drawings with the audio track, and then we go through and number each of these key drawings as a frame number, a keyframe number, and then we work out how many in-betweens we need to go between those. All right, so that essentially is the process of building up to get a nice little sequence of animation. Now all you've got to do, of course, is do the in-betweens and the mechanical process. So let's look at that now. First thing I'm going to do is save it, and because I'm happy with what I've done, I'm going to do a save as, and of course my computer is holding up, but here we go again. So I'm going to now do a save as. I'm working on my version 6. So I'm going to change it to, if it would let me do it, I'm going to go to 7, because now I'm going to break it down. Now what I want to do is a couple of things here. I want to, what am I doing? I'm looking at the wrong frame. So I'm going to look at my key frames, and what I'm going to do is break it down to single frames again. So I'm going to unstrip it. So what I'm doing is, see what I'm doing? So I'm taking it down to one frame there. I'm taking it down to one frame there. One frame there. And there's a reason for doing this, because it's going to make it so much easier to in between. All right, we can strip it out again to where we wanted it to be. I'm trying to shrink that one down, doesn't want to go. Shrink that one down, and finally shrink that one down. There we go. So basically we've still got our same drawings, 1 through 23, 23, 29, 29, 35, 35, 41, 41, 57, 57 to 65, and that's our last drawing. So now we've got our stripped down key positions again. This will make life a lot easier when we're in betweening, okay? And as I say, we can open it up again later when we want to. We just got to remember that when we've got the final position, this second drawing, number 23, should be on frame 23 when it's all opened up again, all right? And everything else should drop into place if we do all the right in-betweens. Okay, so let's go to 1. Now I've stripped that down, I'm actually going to save it. I don't need to save as, because we can always go back to our previous number 6 version to fix it if we need, if we want to restart. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to do the in-betweens from 1 to 23. And I'm not going to do every single one of them for you in this demo, but I'm just going to get you started and show you this process, and then you can do it in your own time. But so we're going from 1 to 23, so I'm going to set it on 1. I'm going to add drawing after. That means now we've got the middle drawing, which is going to be number 7. See that on our chart? Our breakdown drawing is number 7. So I'm going to go here, make sure I've got my pencil selected, 7. Put it in parentheses because it's a breakdown drawing. And I'm going to turn the onion skin on. And there you can see both drawings on number 7, on frame 7, but you can see drawings 1 and 23. And again, what we're going to do is we're just going to, as visually as possible, we're going to in-between everything. All right. Now you can see when I'm doing this why I'm not going to do every single in-between for you in this demo, because it's going to take a while. But I just want to get you into the process so that you can do it yourself. And I don't want you just sitting and watching me do a character that isn't going to be your character either. So here, remember, we can erase digital stuff quite easily. The tip of the nose is going through that kind of arc. So halfway is going to be there. So I'm just going to rough in where I think that nose is. It's going to be about there. Get my eraser, get rid of that. All right, and then let's look at other parts. So we've got an open eye there, and it's kind of swooping on a curve like that to a closed eye. So I recommend do a half closed eye here. So it's going to look something like that, okay? It's half closed, it's halfway and half closed, and it's on that arc. And the other thing is that we're going to have an eyebrow that was up in that position and down in this position. So we need to do kind of a halfway position for the eyebrow. Let's say something like that. And when something's moving really fast, you're not going to absolutely look at everything and say, well, that's not exactly how I'd put it in the middle, and that's not perfect and everything. But you're looking for an expression. And what we're doing is we're half closing the eyes. We're half giving in to something happening here. The other eye is coming from there on this kind of arc to there, and judging it with this eye that we've already drawn, I'm thinking it's going to be half closed about there. As long as you keep the arcs flowing, and I'm not going to erase these rough arc lines because they're going to be useful for other in-betweens. And then we have that eyebrow. The other eyebrow is going to be somewhere like that, beginning to come down, pointing down. I want the emphasis to be pointing down, so on this breakdown position, I'm making it slightly on the side of pointing down. And that gives you that kind of position. I'm just strengthening the head up a little bit, making sure everything is nice and strong. Hard to do on a drawing tablet. Don't like it, told you before. But and then we're going from this round mouth to an open mouth. So we're going to have to start opening the mouth up to something like that. We see the tongue like that. And again, we're working rough. We don't have to, we're working accurate, but we don't have to be clean in terms of our drawing line. All right. So if I turn the onion skin off now, I can scrub between these. See, now I'm getting a flow going on there already. It's beginning to work. You can begin to feel a smoothness. So we've got 1, 7, and 23, sorry. What I forgot to do is the neck. So I'm going to put the onion skin back on. I can see that the neck is going from that position. It's going back, but we kind of lose it on the 23 drawing. So I'm just going to take the neck back there. I can see that the body is going from there to there. And we'd see a little bit of body there. And I'm just strengthening that up. And remember what I said about I like to leave a little gap there. That's what I'm doing. Just erasing that little bit. All right, onion skin off. Now let's look. Yeah, so see that the neck and the body are all going in the right direction. All right, so that gives us our first breakdown position. I'm going to hit save just to make sure, because I'm happy with that. So now what we've got to do, we've got 1 and we've got 7, so we've got to do number 5 next. So I'm going to add a drawing after again, and we're going to call that number 5, like that. Onion skin on. Now we can see again where our in between goes. I'm trying to get as accurately as possible between the two. Keep that nice circular head going. Whatever your character is, try to keep it consistent. Hopefully all your key positions are consistent from shape to shape. And in-betweening is really just translating that into halfway positions. So they should, if your key drawings are accurate and consistent, then your in-between should be. If you're doing actual in-betweens, you're being accurate on that. So there we go. So I'm just doing that from there to there. Now we can see where the eye is going. There's that arc line that I said before. It's there. So I think what we can do is just start to close the eye there. Just as a hint of the bottom of the eye coming up there. There are different ways of interpreting it, but I would say just something like that. And again, we can see the eyes going from there to there. So just a little hint of the bottom coming up like that. Here's the nose line. So I'm just trying to see the top of the nose is there, the top of the nose is there. So I'm trying to find a line somewhere between the two there, somewhere between the line there. So that gives me a nose position of about there. And remember, as you're cleaning this up, you don't have to be perfect with your lines. You have to be accurate with your in-between positioning, but the quality of your line doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you've got something in there that shows you when you clean it up where to put a nice clean line, then all is good. So I'm just darkening that up a bit, darkening that up a bit, just so it reads. If you make it too feathery light, you won't see it moving so well when it's playing. And then that round mouth there is kind of coming down to there, so it's beginning to open up. I would say something like, maybe like that. Just something, just a little, something like that. And then the eyebrows, you can see they're going from there to there. Well, let's just do something like that. As long as you're in the ballpark, it's such a big transition, those shapes. As long as you're in the ballpark, it's going to work fine. So there you go. All right, onion skin off. Let's just look at that. Yeah, see, that's moving nice and smoothly again. So, and you can see the eyebrows coming down, like that. Good. So save. And again, add an extra frame because we've done 5. We've got 1 and 5, so we need to do 3 now. So I'm going to add a drawing afterwards. This is going to be number 3, onion skin on. And again, you can see now things are getting very much tighter. The more in-betweens you put in, the closer what your drawing is going to be when you're in between its position. So I'm just lightly drawing it to start with, just to feel my way out where that's going to be. And that's going to be about there. And the nose is going to be blocking some of this, so I'm going to go down here. That's pretty much, there's the neck halfway, there's the neck halfway there, there's the body halfway there, and so on. Okay, and again we've got the nose coming down there, so we're going to have that about there, and I'm looking at the halfway position of the nose, and it's going to be about there on the top and about there on the bottom. Okay, and that means I can now strengthen this up a bit more, and I know exactly where the nose is, and I can do the same underneath. And here we have the eye. I would probably, as we only hinted at the eye closing on the previous one, I would just in between a full eye. It doesn't matter if it's just pinching in at the bottom or not, but a full eye is going to work fine. So do that, and just getting the halfway position is more important than getting the quality of line there. But I think that's going to work. And again, we've got the top of the nose. I think you can just really kind of dramatically start that eyebrow moving on towards a downward path. Same with here. I think we can just do something like that. Strengthen up that line. Now we know that lighter version of the line is in the middle. We can just strengthen it up a bit. Take it all the way around. We know the we know the neck is fine. We've already done that. And the mouth is going slightly open here. Slight hints of the tongue there. And if I turn the onion skin off now, you'll see we've got 1, 3. See how we've got that? It's beginning to look nice and smooth there. And that's basically what we do. So I'm going to save that because I'm happy with that. So now we have finished 1, 3, 5, 7, but we don't have 9, so we need to go back to 1 and say, okay, we got 7, and then we just got to do 9 to 23. So we're going to go back to 7, drawing 7, add a frame after, and we're going to make that number 9, onion skin on, and again here we are. We're getting on at this point, remember everything's on a move, it's moving quite fast, because we were slowing out from the first position. So I'm going to take that nose there, that nose there, top of the nose there, the head, it's kind of coming around like that. It's very difficult to draw circles. And you'll find it's very difficult to draw anything, to be honest. When you're animating, it takes you a while to get into a character anyway. If you're designing a character, it's easy, well, I won't say easy, but it's easier to come up with a good one-frame character design. You know, it kind of works. Even if it doesn't work, if you give the illusion of it looking like a good character design, even if you didn't get the perspective, even if you didn't get everything right, if it works in one drawing, that's terrific. The problem is when you have to start animating, when you have to turn it into from a side view to a front view, or from a front view to a side view, and then you look at it and say, well, how does that character design? I've drawn it in a front view, but what does it look like in a side view? Or what does it look like in a 3/4 view? And then it gets challenging. That's when it really, really does get challenging for you with a character design. So character designs are really important, and they're not as easy as you think they are when you're going to be animating them. So there's our head. The nose is a little bit, that's okay. And our eyes coming down here, and it's going from that position. So I'm now stretching it widthwise. I'm making that thumbnail or fingernail shape a little bit more extreme and extended, and I'm going to do it the same here. As long as you've got them in the right position, the very fine detail of the drawing is not too important. Now the eyebrow, we can see, oh, that's kind of easy to do now, because we can see there's a corner there, there's a corner there, so we know that corner's got to be there, and that's the end there. So we can kind of more easily work that one out, going down like that. All right, and the same with this one. I'm kind of trying to feel my way into a halfway position, and I think it's going to be around here somewhere. And again, if you draw them a little too thick or a little too thin, that's something you can fix at the cleanup stage. You can modify things slightly, but if you get it roughly right here. And so now we see that mouth, open mouth shape is coming from there to there, and it's beginning to sculpt itself round into that shape a little bit. And the tongue is going to be about there, and this lower lip is starting to go in front of the face. So let's just, again, you can refine the final drawing, the final shape of it, as long as you get your rough position, your rough in-between position in place. Maybe that's coming out a little bit more that way, something like that. And as it's a sudden opening of the mouth, it doesn't matter if the mouth suddenly opens, so I've erred on the side of it being a little bit wider than maybe the perfect in-between, but that's okay because it needs to be wide at that stage. All right, so if I take the onion skin off now, we can see we're beginning to get a nice fluid sequence going there. We don't worry about construction lines or anything like that. So we're down to 23 basically. I'm going to save it. And now it's just the process of putting all your other in-betweens in that same process. So I'm going to add another drawing here, for instance. We're going for number 25, because that's, if you go back to 23, you can see 25 is our next breakdown position that we need to do. Once we've done 25, we can do 27. So I'm going to go back to that new frame. 25. Onion skin on. Now notice I'm only seeing 2 of these characters on the onion skin. That's because if you look at this sliding scale, if I open that up, you'll see a lot more. But I'm sliding them together just to see one drawing either side when I do the onion skinning. And again, we're just going to rough in halfway position. I always start with the head shape. Your design might be different. you may have other priorities, but I find if I get the outer head shape right, everything else locates itself within it. So I'm just drawing around the outer head shape here. The nose, we can see, we can guess it's coming down here somewhere. So as long as you've got the nose more or less halfway, I would say something like that, we're doing all right. Use the eraser to get rid of that line. And the eye is kind of just sliding around from there to there, so we just want to do something like that. Just try to keep it vaguely the same shape, like that. And that eye is coming around. Oh, see, now I made a mistake. So guys, no focus here. I'm erasing that eye. I took the wrong, so this is the left eye going to the left eye here. So if we take a point there and a point there, we can see it's still coming around on a kind of arc, so the point's going to be there. So that eye is going to be somewhere around there. It's moving fast, so we're probably okay putting it there. And then this eye, this is the right eye, it's coming from there and it's going to there, so it's coming around this direction. So that's probably going to be there. And double check that they look right next to each other, the new eye positions. Just make sure you've not got it sliding around the head and doing weird things, but they're kind of in relation to each other. They should be working as well as getting the right in-between position. Okay, and then the eyebrow is coming round on an arc. This end of it and this end of it is on that kind of arc, and it's about halfway, so we can do something like that for that side. And the same with this side, it's coming around that way, so I'm going to put the eyebrow there. I'm just roughing this in right now. I will strengthen it up in a minute. I'm just filling out my position. So the mouth is a little bit more complicated, so we're going from there to there. So the mouth, whoops. So the mouth on one is there and there, so the mouth is going to be around here somewhere. And we're going to see the tongue about there. But the mouth is going out the bottom of the screen. See that? So that's what's going on there and there. And we're not really seeing, let me scrub. If in doubt, always scrub. So I didn't really draw the body in on there. On 29. Should have drawn a body in there, but I'm just guessing. Let's just say it's going out of shot. So turn the onion skin off. And I'm just going to strengthen this up. But we know we've worked out all our in-between positions are okay. Like that. Just strengthen that up a little bit so we know what's going on. It's coming around there. It's coming around there. Use my erase tool just to clean out. That's the lower lip and that's the tongue. But basically that should give us, see that? I should darken the eyebrows a bit probably so that there's a bit more consistency of darkness on them. Like that. Like that. And that should give us, yeah, feels right to me. I noticed under the eyes I got those little glitchy bits showing up there. I actually didn't put them on 25. I didn't put them on 29, so I'm just going to add them because I think they help give a sense of the eyes pinching up there. See what I'm doing there? So that means I have to put them on 25 as well. Yeah. And then that means the whole sequence is now like that. Okay? So that gives me 25. If I go back to 21, I've got 25 now. I've just got to do 27. I'm going to do this one, guys, and then I'm going to leave it. I'll do them unseen, and then I'll come back in a minute on the video and show you how to do the final part of this for week 2. So we've got 23, 25, going to 29. So we've got to do 27. So I'm going to select 25, add a drawing after. That's going to be 27. Put onion skin on. And again, I'm just kind of guesstimating where the nose is there. Now you can probably see why I said choose a simple character. All right, that's why I like Arnie character, because he's just a ball head with simple features on it, and it means that it's very easy to work with and to in between. And even then it's not really easy, but it's pretty easy. And then I'm seeing the mouse going from there to there, so I'm going halfway with that, like that. Head's coming around there, the body's going about there, the body's coming around there. And then I can do this pretty visually. The eyes are more or less going from there to there, and more or less from there to there. Okay, and the eyebrow, I'm totally what we call eyeballing this. I'm not measuring it out in any way. I'm just trying to visually establish where the halfway position is. And if you can keep that pretty simple, as long as you're more or less in the middle, it's going to work fine, because this is kind of big movements here going on. If it's getting very tight, then you have to be much more accurate. But as long as you're in a ballpark of getting this in between correct, then all is good. The tongue, I forgot to put the tongue in there. But yeah, let me just take the onion skin off and double check everything. It looks like it's moving fine to me, so I'm just going to strengthen it all up. Now, of course, it's no good playing it back to full speed and expecting to hear the track, because we've taken it off all the sync points at this stage. So we can't play the track with this. But as long as our pose test or our animatic was working fine and in sync with it, there's no reason to believe that once we repurpose all this, put it all back into its correct order, when it's in between, it should automatically slot in, except the very first part, in which case we have to slide it into place. But there should be no reason why this doesn't work perfectly with our soundtrack. But in the meantime, it seems to be working fine with what we got, and I'm just blackening this in enough for it to read when we play it back. Just darkening the eyebrows so that we can follow them more easily when it's playing. And remember, I've drawn these eyebrows with a slight curve to them. See that? They're slightly curved. That's because it's on a sphere. Remember, the head is a sphere. It's not a disc. So everything you draw on it has to kind of have a feel of wrapping around that sphere. And that's why I put a slight curve to the eyebrows. All right, so if we now look, see, now we're getting a nice, this is where the smoothness comes in when we do our in-betweens. All right, guys, so I've got to 29. What I'm going to do, well, maybe I'll do one more, because this is a big move. From 29 to 35 is a big move, so we have to accommodate that. Remember, the action is coming down and then suddenly it's going to be going up. So when I do this in between, I'm not going to draw a straight in between up. I'm going to continue it round to the up position. So I need to show you this one. So 29, we're going to go 33 is our first one. And that takes us up to 35. And I'm going to push it a little bit higher than and a little bit round on an arc than I normally would. So 29, add key drawing, add after, and this is going to be 33. Come on, eraser, 33. Onion skin on. So now you can see it's coming from this shape to this shape, and the temptation would be just to draw a circle in the middle, but I'm not going to, because it's coming down this way to this point, and then it's going up that way. So I want to take it out and around. So what I'm going to do is actually put the circle, and this is where I get really roughing out. I'm going to put the circle out here so that it kind of echoes that arc feeling to it. So again, it's hard to get your proportions exactly right, but I'm roughing it in there, let's see. And the nose is from down there to up there, so I think we've got to, I'm pushing it up on this one because it's number 33. There's another in between ahead of this, number 31. So I'm pushing this 33 up higher than it would normally be. The eyes are still closed, so I think I would still have the eyes like this. We'll just see a little bit of the eyebrow just there. Nothing of that one. And we're keeping that mouth open. We want a nice big, because it's a big sneeze here, so we want to keep that mouth open, keep the tongue in, gives it a point of reference. But basically, whoops, I hit the, let me erase that. I hit the little clicker on the side of the pencil and it held it down and it kept the line going. So yeah, I want to keep the mouth open here. And fill it in so that we're aware of that big open mouth, because this is with the ah-choo part. The ah really needs to be big there. Okay, so there's that, and we'll put a little bit of lower lip there. Make sure that the head is keeping its consistency there. And then the neck is down there and it's going to up there, so we've got to kind of guess where stuff's going here, but the body's more or less coming up here. Luckily I didn't get you animating arms and legs and everything on a full figure, right? And yeah, so that gives us something like that. It's going off the screen there. Let's see if I got, yeah, I got to the screen edge. Eyebrow, just a hint of it there. Maybe just define the eye a little bit more as a squeezed position. Same here. Draw that in. Erase the nose part. So now if I take the onion skin off, you'll see that I've gone, see what I've done there? So I've gone, it's coming down in this direction, and I've just pushed it on over here to come forward again. So it's keeping an arc going rather than a straight line. Okay, so we've got 29 and we got 33. Let me erase. Just to make it a little bit more defined. As I say, it doesn't matter about quality of drawing line here because we're going to clean it up later. But it does matter accuracy and placement. So that gives us more or less that 33 position. All right, so now we're going to do a similar thing but different with between 20, we're going 29 to 33. Let me just slide that over. 29 to 33, we're going to do 31. And it's the same process. So add a drawing afterwards. Use my pencil tool, 31. Straightforward in between. Onion skin on. So again, you can see the temptation would be to do a straight line there, but I'm not. I'm kind of working out where the head would be, but I'm taking it back and round. I'm keeping that idea of an arc going. See that? So it's still following through on a back and up arc. I'm guessing where the neck and the head, the body would be at this stage, but I'm not going to guess on anything else. So that nose, for instance, is coming from down there to up there. It's going to be coming. It's going to be a funny shape here. It's okay to do funny shapes sometimes because it's in transition, but I'm guessing it's somewhere like that. And then the eye is coming, pushing back on an arc like this, so the eye is going to be somewhere like this. Sometimes it's going to be a funny drawing, but that's okay because you're trying. It's 1/24 of a second. Remember, when we're animating this, it's 1/24 of a second. It's important to get the vague shapes more accurate. And I'm looking at the mouth now. It's going from down there to down there. So we're really pushing. We want to keep that mouth back here. And it looks a weird drawing in many ways, but it will probably work. So let me take the onion skin off and let's just see what we got there. So see, it does work. It's taking it back on that arc and then coming forward. That's what I'm after. So as weird as that drawing looks, it's actually okay. So I'm just strengthening it up, cleaning it up a little bit without actually being a cleanup. Just blocking it out. And sometimes if you freeze some of even the greatest Disney animation and you freeze on a frame of fast movement, you'll get extraordinarily weird looking drawings. And as a drawing, they look weird, but in the context of a moving sequence, they work perfectly. So don't worry if, for instance, this nose is looking weird. I might even just make it weirder by making it almost a round nose, because it's really blurring at this stage. It's not actually keeping that long pointy because it's turning towards us. The head is turning towards us, so we're foreshortening the nose. And so in that moment in time, it's okay. If you go back on Warner Brothers animation, they had a thing called smear in-betweens, and they were extremely weird looking extended blur kind of drawings. With animation, you can't do soft edges. With this kind of animation anyway, you can't do soft edges. So the animators had to compensate for that to get a motion blur, which is, in real world, is totally soft. You see an object like a ball traveling through space really fast. If you freeze the frame on a live action film, the ball won't be a ball anymore. It'll be like a blur. And that's called a motion blur. Well, to try and simulate that in animation, in drawn animation, the only thing we can do is draw a physical blur as a distorted shape. And that's what I'm doing here with the nose especially. I'm keeping that distortion there, because it'll actually work in the context of the movement, the flowing movement. All right, let's just clean out some of these messy lines, simplify it all. Let's take that line out of the nose, maybe not make it quite so high up there. But yeah, just for one frame that nose works being that shape. It's weird, but that's the way it goes with animation sometimes. Yeah, just clean up a little bit. Keep the eyes pointed at the ends. Nice and tightly creased shut. And I think you'll see that, as weird as it looks, this drawing will actually work. And I just want to do those little crease lines. Forgot to add those. Alright, so now, see what I was going for there? I'm just going for that arc, and then it's going to come forward, of course. But I'm not going to do that in between now. What I'll do is, off camera, I'll finish up the in-betweens, then I'll come back and conclude this video, okay? And you can see how I put it together at the end. When I got all my in-betweens in, how to put it together. It's just a simple retiming on the timeline, very easy, but you need to have all the in-betweens done, and I don't want you watching every single in-between. So I'm going to carry on now, and you guys, I'll catch up with you in a minute. All right. All right, so now I've got all my in-betweens in. See this? Now we have to reconstruct it, okay? So remember what we had before. We had everything on twos, basically odd numbers. We charted it out as odd numbers. And so we've got to revert that back to twos. So what I'm going to do is select frame 1, edit multiple, drag that all the way through to the end. It looks a mess. It looks like a Picasso or something, but I'm going to change it to 2 frames. All right. So there we now have, if I go back to play, you can see we've slowed it down. Now what we need to do is, if you remember, our drawing 23 should be on frame 23. At the moment it's on 11, so we're going to stretch frame 1 to a point where I didn't work this out beforehand. 2 more frames. Just going to move this 1, 2. Now we should have frame 23 on frame 23, correct? And I'm just going to extend my last drawing now. So there we go to there. And I am going to open up the audio and hopefully play. Okay, so there we have it. That's basically, I'm going to save that by the way. And basically we have a sneeze. Now, of course, it's not the most perfect sneeze in the world. And to be honest, I've never animated a sneeze before. So I've been learning this as we go through, but it's my best shot right now. And I think it's enough to give you an idea of where we can go, or where you can go with your final work. So, you know, try to follow the process. It's tedious in a way, but at the same time, it is structured. And if you follow through each stage from the first blocking out through to the final in-between, and then re-engineer the whole thing to make sure your frames are in the right place and your scene is the right length, you should end up with a good sneeze, with an acceptable sneeze. Now, yes, you can improve it. Yes, I can improve it. But in a professional world, you'd have time and money to do that. We don't have that now, but I think you've got the process now. I think you know how to work through a sequence of animation, not just a sneeze, but this is really how we approach all kinds of animation, especially if they've got an audio track. There are many other complications to audio tracks that to be covered in a more advanced class, but I think this will give you a notion of how to use your audio right from the beginning to block out your positions, to get your timing right, to polish it, to then retime it, then work out your in-betweens, and then do the in-betweens and do a final render. And I think this will at least get you to the end of the week 2 assignment, which is to complete your fully animated in-between sneeze without cleaning up and color. Okay, so I'm going to play you now the final render of this stage, and you can see what it looks like in real time on a video, and then it really is over to you. Okay, so here we go.